and welcome to a Progressions and Careers interview. Today we are being joined by Vinny Hurrell, international global megastar of TV and radio.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's all true. So Vinny has a show on BBC Radio Ulster and also BBC Northern Ireland called My First Home. Check it out. It's on iPlayer for everyone. It's amazing. Check it out, everyone. So, Vinny, can you please describe a normal day in your career, not during an outbreak of a virus?
Okay. So usually I'm not in my living room. Usually I'm in the office. The day job is as radio production. So I produce the morning radio news current affair talk show. It's on from 9 until 11. So that involves me getting up quite early and trying to consume a lot of news and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. And we set up a lot of different items for that. It is driven by the news and current affairs, so it can change even up to the last minute. You can do a certain amount of preparation for it, but you've got to try and be reactive. So it's everything from putting in requests or bids, as we refer to them, for ministers, for government officials, politicians, businesses, people in general. Just depends on who it is. And then when we're on air, you do some of that and you get a lot of people calling in. So you filter through them and you kind of liaise with the presenter. And I guess you're trying to fill in any blanks in his knowledge. You're constantly talking in his ear and trying to help, I guess, in terms of being a producer. So that's the morning job. After that, you're then planning for the next day. I have my own program on Radio Ulster on a Friday, which is totally different from the morning job because we refer to it as Friday Fizz, or management do. And I kind of it's more taking the mick out of them, but it's all about ending the week on a positive, on a high. And you're constantly preparing for that. So every day, even though that's only on just the one day a week, you're preparing for that, whether it's pre-recording interviews, even down to simpler things like picking music, arranging for guests and that to come on. And then in and around that, because TV is quite a regular thing for me, which I'm really fortunate about. Radio's regular, TV's not as regular. So with radio, it's every day. TV, it's kind of seasonal and depends on what's happening. And you fit it in and around everything else. And that TV takes about 10 times as long as radio. Radio is a bit more real, I would say, whereas TV, by the nature of it, isn't. Like, I remember I worked for a couple of days on The X Factor years and years ago, and that was my real eye-opener to how constructed TV is. So, if people came out of the audition and they were told yes or no, they were still thinking, oh, we don't have the shot of you going in or waiting to go in, so can we do that now? So you've already been told no, but let's do that shot now where you're nervous, you're excited, that kind of thing. So I just try and fit it all in and make it work.
Amazing. Well, it sounds absolutely chaotic.
It can be, but what I've learned over the years is just to try and not get freaked out or worry about the fact that you're trying to fit everything in. Because as my dad said, it beats a proper job. There are people on the front line of the NHS, or, there's so many other jobs that are so much more key. So I'm not trying to save anyone's life, is what I'm trying to say. So yes, you might have a lot to do, try and fit in. There's lots of legal implications, everything from, a guest saying something that could get you or the BBC sued, right down to you playing a song that's got an offensive lyric in it. So, you got to think about all those things, but again, try not to get overwhelmed or feel like you're overwhelmed by the different tasks that you have to do, because there's big teams and there's other people to help you as well. Yeah,
amazing.
It's fun. I'm really glad that I got to do what I wanted to do, because most people have to go to work, and if you get to go and do a job that you love, then you're really fortunate, I think.
Yeah, and you do love it. I know you love it.
Yeah, a little bit too much sometimes, because there's like any job, there's ups and downs. There are positive aspects to it, but there are also because a lot of it can be based on someone's opinion of you, or their like or dislike of you or what you do. and that's not even going on to social media, just in general, you know, trying to get a TV show, for example, there are so many people that want to do that, and you're relying on that person that's making that decision at that time, liking you and wanting you, and
Yeah.
they might decide they don't want or like you through nothing you have any control over, and you just have to be okay with that.
Yeah, you do. But luckily you are, as I know, very resilient. But even then, you must have very hard days.
Yeah, you do. It's not always logical. You know, you could have you know, lots of skills, lots of whatever that they're looking for, but for other reasons they will pick somebody else. You know, they do schedule changes, and that's when you're thinking, well, is this where I get moved out? Am I going to get a better slot, a worse slot, or am I going to be removed from the schedule? And you know, a lot of the times it is linked to performance with any job, so people are watching or listening. But then with the BBC as well, it's not just about the numbers of people watching, because part of their remit is to provide programs for different areas that commercial wouldn't. So, you know, it might not be the most watched program, but it is important to a certain sector of the community that, you know, they've got to provide for. So, you know, it doesn't mean it's any less or, you know, not as good a program. But so you could have a really successful TV program that's doing really well, and they still might not recommission it. But that might be nothing to do with you or the program. It's maybe down to what they need to do for the year ahead, or even down to, you know, they have other programs of their own that they want to commission instead of recommissioning a program from somebody else's. It just depends.
Yeah, very high pressured then.
Yeah, it can be, especially when you're, you know, live programming can be quite difficult. You do get used to it. Like the morning program, I've been doing that for 11 years. And when the presenter's off, I will sit in for him. And with that kind of program, you really need to know what you're doing or what you're talking about, or make sure that you don't say something that will open you up to criticism. Especially if you're challenging a politician, for example, and on what their responsibilities are, and you don't have your facts straight. That's just one example. That looks bad. It can be damaging. So you just got to be aware of that. But again, there are teams. There's a producer when I'm on a Friday. There's a producer when we're filming for TV. Producers and directors, and it's a collective thing. So you're not on your own. But yeah, it can be pressured.
Wow. Well, it's amazing what you do. We love watching you and hearing you. So, how did you get to where you are now?
Radio, TV, it's always what I wanted to work in. So from an early age, that was it. That was, you know, my goal. So I decided that uni would be the best course, and I just wanted to try and give myself a good base, so that when I was trying to branch out and get experience, I would have something to refer to, something to kind of give me a center to start off that career. I went to do media and journalism. I decided to go with both. I guess I was kind of hedging my bets and thinking, well, you know, if I go into radio to do radio production, if I add the journalism in, it's another element that I have. And I did that. While I was doing that, I did uni radio, which was a lot of fun, and it's a real learning curve because you do get training and you do get told how it works and what to do, but at the same time, you've got that scope to kind of learn, to make a few mistakes, and
like
not
swearing.
necessarily get like swearing on air or playing the wrong music or not fitting in with what the station wants. You know, you can do that because, you know, there's that flexibility there to make a few mistakes. And then also while there, I as part of my course, I did some filming and different elements of that, which was a real eye opener, because radio in one way is harder in that you've got to try and create the images or create the story from what you're trying to tell in people's heads. With TV, you don't have to do that. But then when it's in TV, you are then totally responsible for that imagination, because you're cutting out their imagination and you're showing them. So if you do it badly, that's also bad. So you've got those two different things to try and contend with. And that's why not one is easier or harder than the other. But yeah, so that was it. And I did a training course with the BBC and had done lots of free work in between. And when I was going and doing work as a runner, or just different bits and pieces, trying to get experience, contacting lots of stations. I did community radio for years, a couple of different stations, and then the training course with the BBC, and then some different bits in conjunction. But you never really feel, or I don't feel like I've got to where I want to go, and I don't know if I'll ever feel that. So in some ways that's a good thing, because it's drive and ambition. In some ways it's a bad thing, because contentment's really important in your job, and if you never feel content and you're always trying for something else, you could be missing what's happening right now, plus putting pressure on yourself to do something else or succeed when you're doing all right.
Yeah, you're already successful. So what you are very successful. So well, I'll have to ask then, what is next for you? What is that ultimate for you?
I would love to do some more radio of my own. So I produced other people's programs. So the morning show, for example, for nearly 11 years, I think. After a while, it's like my own age. I'm thinking, I think it's 11. So I'd like to maybe do some more of that, and maybe do more in terms of radio than the 1 day a week. But again, it's not like a regular job that you can just apply for it. It doesn't necessarily ever become available. I'd like to do that, and I'd like to do some more TV. I'd also like to do a bit less, if that makes sense.
So you want to do more but do less?
Do more but do less. At the minute, I feel like I'm trying to fit, and it's my doing, so I'm not complaining, but a couple of jobs and fit them in throughout the year. And I'd like to maybe to concentrate that on a couple of things as opposed to 3 or 4, and therefore have more time to do them, more time to concentrate on them. But again, unless I start my own station, it's not necessarily up to me. So I can keep on at them and keep knocking on that door. But I've just got to wait and see what happens.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get to where you want to be eventually. But like you said, appreciate where you are right now.
Yeah, that's important, because otherwise you're just constantly chasing something else.
Definitely. So I just want to ask a little bit about equality and diversity, and how you feel it is represented in sort of TV, radio, media industries.
Well, in Northern Ireland, it's different to an extent in that the focus here for equality and diversity can be religion, because of how the makeup of Northern Ireland and how that's represented. So we are constantly aware of that in our programs, because you just have to be. The BBC, rightly so, is open to more criticism on that, because you have to pay your TV license. It's not an option. So therefore you should be represented on the screen. It's not like somewhere that is a paid advertising channel where you can just not support that product. So I think that's important. I think as well, in 2020, things are changing all the time, and the representation, the visibility of certain elements of the community are there. For example, the LGBT community and the representation, how that is now, is totally different from even when I was younger. It's becoming, as is in society, the norm to see certain stories, and the story is more of just the fabric, the makeup of life, as opposed to, oh my goodness, there's a gay story on the TV, which is great, and that's the way it's going towards. The same with disabilities. I think it's really important that it's visible, and that people, it's not something to hide or make a big deal of. It's something that should be there, because life is life, and this is how, as a society we all are, and it's really important that should be on our screens. I think there's much more way to go when it comes to disabilities, and how we approach that, how that's portrayed on our screens, because it can still be a little bit tokenistic, which is, I guess, is a step on the way to that. But I think when we get to the point where it is just regular as part of putting a male or a female or somebody else in a role, it's just somebody that happens to have a disability, happens to be trans, whatever that might be.
Amazing. Well, that's brilliant. So would you recommend your career to other people?
No, because there's too many people competing for the jobs as it is, and I don't want any more. Yes, I would say if it's something that you really want, then yeah. If it's something that you think you might want, then I'd say don't bother, because there's a lot of doors closed in your face, and there's a lot of developing thick skin that is difficult. And if it's not something you really want, I wouldn't put yourself through it, because it's just not that it's not worth it. It's just not worth it if it's not definitely what you want to do. And it is really fun as well, and you get to do and experience things that you might not otherwise. But you've got to be ready for a bit of a slog, and people saying that they don't like you, and it's not for anything you've any control over.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's amazing, but you just gotta have a very thick skin.
or develop it and be happy to, and put the work in. But yeah. I would recommend it to somebody else. Yeah,
I was going to say, I have seen for 20 years how much hard work you have put into getting to where you are now, and we're all very proud of you. So
that's very kind. Thank you.
Right, I'll let you get back to your work now. So thank you very much, Vinny, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye, Joe.
Bye.